All right. Okay. Untap, upkeep, draw. All right. I think I'm gonna start off by casting this birthing pod.
How much mana do you have open?
I got about 3 mana open right now.
Okay. 3 mana. God, that's a lot. Okay. How many cards in hand?
I got 2 cards in hand.
2 cards in hand. Oh, that's enough for something. Okay. Well, I mean, I'll try to force a will. Sure, I'll pitch to submerge.
Yeah. I'm gonna Veil of Summer.
Okay. I'll tap 3 mana. I'll channel this Mirror Shell Crab, targeting
What the fuck?
your birthing pod.
What the fuck? Am I getting crabbed right now?
Get crabbed on.
Well, I guess I just lose now. You're just gonna win the game. Hey, after we're done, there's this cool bar down the street called Mana on the Rocks. I hear these 2 bozos talk a lot about CEDH and have really medium takes. You want to come down and get a drink with us?
Oh, I'm hyped. Let's go.
You have been on Cormela since Cormela released, right? If I remember that correctly.
Yeah, and I pretty much had everything even before it came out. Like, I was ready.
Mhm.
Like, I saw that thing in the spoiler. I remember seeing it in Mythic spoiler or whatever, and I was like, it's locked in. Like, this is the one.
Yeah. No, you gravitated towards this commander like pretty much immediately.
So, like, I mean, like what I used to play. I used to play the silly Joyer deck, the blue-red thing.
Bring it back, dude.
Yeah, I had a list for a little bit, like a more like CH list that actually plays like Force of Will and everything, but it was bad. It was like a stack stick that instantly loses the Drannith. But essentially, I played a blue-red deck that wanted to like play big mana spells and stuff like that. So like time warps and mnemonic delusion stuff, and I wanted to add a color.
Deluge, oh my god!
Yeah, you got that for me for my birthday.
Yeah.
Or Christmas or something. And
yeah.
Essentially, I wanted to add a color, but I wanted to still be big mana and play blue-red. So my 3 options, I didn't have a Grixis one yet, but my first 2 options were Calamax for green. And because he copies
that's
stuff.
A favorite of the show. That's a favorite of the show.
Yeah, I almost did that. I was waiting for a Grixis like option. I didn't have a Grixis option yet. And then the other one was Hinata, the like the America colors one, right? Thing. Yeah. No, it's the one that like you.
Oh no,
it's cost one less for each target.
It's the reducer, right.
Yeah, because I realized, I mean, that's sort of like you can go big mana with that by playing big spells and it reduces them and stuff. But I felt that like that was the deck is kind of solved. like you already know what you're playing. You play like Reality Spasm and all that stuff, and it's not really like it's a CDH deck, I think maybe, but like nothing really good. And then I saw Cormela and I was like, oh, she's a mana dork. And that's like, oh, that's big mana right there. It helps you play your spells. So I was instantly on it.
Yeah, tapping to make 3 mana out of your commander is like, I think, a pretty substantial amount. When I look at commanders to like generate mana, like 3 is usually the minimum I want out of a commander.
Yeah, well, she really makes 2.
Yeah, but she color fixes into 2.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Yeah, and like as soon as it was like spoiled, I remember like trying to figure out how to like break it, because like even from the very beginning, people are like, this like can be broken, and Sonhalf wasn't out yet or anything. I don't even think Sonhalf.
I think we knew about Sonhalf around this point.
Yeah, it might have been spoiled already.
Because freaking this set was like the first like quarter of the year or something like that, and Unfinity was initially planned for April Fool's release.
Yeah.
Then they had to push
the
it
end
back.
of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, but we already got like that was Sonhalf was like the one black border card that they showed out to be like, oh, we're printing black border cards now.
Yeah, and what an insane one to show up.
Oh god, literally the only card that matters from that set.
Yeah.
Thank God. Thankfully, there is still like a couple of cards I'm like, okay, they're fine, whatever. I think like the Mind Goblin is like the only one that is like
that does make it into decks.
Close. That does make it into decks if you need like the big red mana dork or something. Yeah. But it's pretty much just Sonhalf.
Whenever
even then, like a lot of people don't play Sonhalf outside like our group, basically.
Yeah. Whenever I see like the mono red like decks sit down at the table and I see their sticker like thing they put down, I'm like, oh shit, the goblin's in there. Like you can't see it, but you know.
Yeah, you know the Mind Goblin's just in there lurking.
Yeah. But Cormela was spoiled, and I was we were just like instantly. I was just trying to figure it out, and I know
Hmm.
my friend Jordan. He's because I knew about Shallow Grave, right?
Hmm.
And I knew that you needed a sacker. So Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar were like the obvious options. But I was like, is there more than Shallow Grave? Like, there's got to be something else. And I
Hmm.
think you suggested Corpse Dance or something like that, right? Is that the
Probably
buyback
because
one?
yeah, it's the buyback one.
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
that
I was high on
works.
that card.
Yeah, you were really high on that card, and it's good. But like, it like Corpse Dance does work, but it doesn't make you like infinite mana. It just storms you in the
Hmm.
with Cormela. And my friend Jordan suggested, he was like, "Oh, Goryo's Vengeance," and I was like, "Oh shit, Goryo's Vengeance."
Yeah, and as soon as I heard about the Goryo's Vengeance attack, I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, we actually have like density here. We can actually get this like covered for right now until Sonhalf comes out. Because
yeah,
I think a lot of people looked at Cormella and knew Sonhalf was going to come out and knew like, okay, well, like these two cards just work with each other perfectly.
yeah. With the Dark
I think a
Ritual and
lot
all
of people,
that.
yeah, and I think a lot of people were expecting this deck to like take everything by storm. Haha.
Yeah.
Uh, not really so much.
Yeah, I've never played against it. I've
I
never.
I I have hardly heard of people like actually like playing it and testing this and working this outside of you.
Yeah, there's like I don't know what the site's called, but there's like a database that tracks like tournaments, like CDH tournaments, and
Oh, it's like MTG tops or something like
yeah,
that.
and there is one other Cormella deck that did top, got rank 1 in a tournament.
Hmm.
My record is not on there because I didn't know that was a thing, so I
Yeah.
didn't submit it, and now it's too late, I think. But
Probably at this point, yeah.
yeah, but like but yeah, for a while it was just the Gorios thing was just how I did it. Like that's how I won. That was the only way.
Mhm.
You had to play an artifact. It sucked. But
Yeah, it it was definitely rough going for a little while. Although you were on some pretty like spicy cards at the time. Like you tested a lot of different cards, I think, in
yeah,
the list.
I'm the kind of person who I will literally test anything. You just name me
Hmm.
a card, I'll be like, I'll try it out. Like I don't
Hmm.
care what it does. I'll do it.
Hmm.
And that's what my
So
deck looks like right now.
yeah, it definitely is like a weird pile of like, okay, a lot of these are all really good cards, and then a lot of these are like, well, that's definitely strange. That's definitely cards that I want to like hear the thought process on.
Yeah.
But like before we kind of dive into it, I'm really bad at remembering to like actually read out the cards so that way people know what we're talking
Oh,
about.
so like read 'em one
Uh,
by one, right?
yeah, well, no, so like Cormella herself, like
Oh
this is what
yeah.
the card does, so we have context for everything. So
I
Cormella, if you want to do
Uh,
it, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I've read it so many times. I just assume everybody
Mhm.
knows, but it's just because it's like I couldn't close my eyes and see the card.
Oh,
Like,
oh well,
but you can
for
read
for
it. Go for it.
for those that are not enlightened, Cormella is 1 in Grixis, so 4 CMC for a 2/4 legendary vampire rogue with haste. It has an activated ability of 1 tap, add Grixis, spend this mana only to cast instant or sorceries, and then when Cormella dies, return up to 1 target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. So again, we mentioned this earlier, like it's a mana dork. It turns 1 mana into 2. It locks the mana, but like that's kind of whatever.
Yeah,
I feel like every time I see you have a Cormella, like it doesn't matter that it's instant and sorceries because like that's what you're doing.
that's like really all. I play like 4 creatures in the deck sometimes. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
like I've had up to 8 in the deck before, but like yeah, it's somewhere around there. Yeah,
So what we again we kind of alluded to this because I'm bad at structuring these things because we just jump into it.
yeah,
So what's the general like game plan? Like I see a lot of like kind of Grixis staple stuff. Like I see Breach, I see Intuition, I see Thoracle. Like I see all of these like okay, like these are some of the usual suspects, but I know there is spice hidden within here.
yeah. The idea is like, so it's kind of changed over time.
Mhm.
The old version, I keep mentioning the Goryo's Vengeance version with the altar combo, but the one thing that made that version very different is that you could combo off without Cormella on the battlefield, and that you needed her. You could just have her in the graveyard and start it,
Mhm.
and that's not a thing anymore. Yeah, she has to be out,
Mhm.
and what makes it very different. I think I think the idea is obviously a very graveyard centric deck, like through and through. You really just want to have Cormella on the battlefield and use her to not only like spend your turn playing like value cards, but then using her to hold up interaction. And it's kind of really important that like all of our interaction can be cast through a Cormela. That's why I don't play like Mana Drain or anything like that, because that can't be cast with just Cormela mana. That's also why Delay is like so good.
I think Delay is just generically really good on its own.
And that's sort of like you kind of just want to buy time until you can find that window to win. It is a little like hard being a Grixis deck in a creature based meta that I play in. That's why I don't play Adnaz anymore. So there's no Adnaz.
Yeah. that is one thing that is definitely absent from the list. Have you yes, the average mana of the deck is 1.22 with lands, which according to one of our local Nas experts, like that's like basically on like, okay, you can start to consider Nas for your list as like a value card.
I did definitely used to play it. I played it in the first tournament, the one I won.
Okay.
I think I cast it in maybe one of the games.
No, I think you cast in the one game that we played together.
But you were I think.
No, did you peer? I don't know. The only thing I remember from that game is me forcing like a million Ristic draws to not die to the Dawnwaker player, and then you were right after the Dawnwaker player, and then we lost to you.
Yeah, I think I final fortuned like before your turn started or some stupid thing like that.
It was something crazy like that. Oh, we have shouted out Gabby's before. Eckszy is our winner for the first OCCS championship. They were the first winner.
Let's go.
Let's freaking go. No, it was really, really cool to see. Basically just one of our locals just take the entire tournament by storm.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. And ever since we started, I think one of our regulars has taken down the tournament each and every time.
Yeah. Jaden twice.
Jaden twice. Yeah, no, it's insane. It's insane. Okay, so what? Actually, yeah, no. Let's. I want to start kind of going into the card by card because there's a lot of cool cards that I know you have pages and pages and pages of notes on why it's the most optimal card or the funniest card.
Yeah, and there's certainly like things in here that are not optimal. Like right now, because I'm constantly testing things. Right, like, I don't leave my deck in one list. I just want to say that first off.
Okay. Well, let's kind of kick it off with you're on Jace the Completed Mind. You want to read me? You want to read me this card?
Yeah. So he costs 2 blue and a Phyrexian blue. He's a legendary planeswalker. He is completed, so if you cast him for paying the 2 life for the Phyrexian thing, he comes in with 2 less loyalty counters. His +1 doesn't matter. And his I just skipped right over the +1.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
His -2, you can have someone mill 3 cards, usually yourself, and then if a graveyard has 20 more cards in it, you like Ancestral Recall. Otherwise, you just draw a card, and you can pay any amount of loyalty to mill 3 times that much. This is definitely like a test card. Like this is not like usually in the deck. I primarily like how it's a substitute for Brain Freeze for LED combos because you can. You always pay the Phyrexian 2, right? It's not like a full replacement, but like it gets you through your deck.
It does enough to get you there.
Yeah, and because you do have to pay 2 life if you're doing like if you're trying to really go, but you should have enough life to do it, like all the way through your deck. But yeah, you just -3 him over and over to mill 15. You escape just the amount to escape LED and Jace, and then you just do it again. And you do go up on cards.
15 is more than 6, so you're clearing.
Sorry, I meant 9. Sorry, but you do net 3 every time.
Yeah, you do net, so you're able to do. That's okay. That's actually pretty cool. That's interesting. Be real, I didn't know this was a card.
Yeah, it's a little like a grinding station kind of situation.
A little bit, yeah. Except it doesn't die to the usual things that like a grinding station line does die to.
Yeah, it doesn't die to Oof.
It doesn't die to Oof. Man, who's playing Oof? That's a card. That card's crazy.
I guess LED does though, so I don't know. That's kind of funny. But...
Hey, you're still a Grixis list. Like you still don't like seeing Oof on the battlefield. Like it just Grixis things. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
One main thing about it, and the reason why I'm testing it, is because like this deck really needs value, like card draw engines and stuff. And this is a card draw engine that can be a really big one sometimes. So that's kind of like that's pretty much why I'm trying it, giving it a chance.
I imagine. I feel like 20 cards in the graveyard, like a stopped breach line. You're just ancestral recalling. You're a graveyard deck yourself. You're playing a lot of instants and sorceries, so you're just gonna be naturally filling up your yard for like pretty fast. I feel like.
Yeah.
Okay, no, this card's sick. I like this card a lot. And that's the only planeswalker we're on. No Ashioks, no nothing like that.
Yeah, no. 2 instant sorcery heavy to play a lot of planeswalkers. Also easy to
fair.
cast Jace, by the way. It's pretty compared to the other two sometimes.
You can cast it off a Mana Crypt turn 1, which is not irrelevant.
Yeah. So yeah, creatures.
We got 7 of them. A lot of them are kind of just like they're what you would expect for a Grixis list. Like we're on Ragavan, makes sense.
Yep.
We're on Dockside, makes sense. Bowmasters, makes sense. Fimage. I feel like Fimage here is at a slightly higher premium because you can just like because we went over this. The legend rule does not does not cause a death trigger, right?
No, it does.
Or does it?
It does. Yeah,
okay.
that's why Sonhat works.
It doesn't cause a sacrifice trigger. That's the one we always ran into.
Yeah. But
imagine Fimage is at a higher premium because it is like just a regrowth effect, right?
Exactly. That it's exactly that. It's so good for that.
Okay.
You can even like tap Cormela and then not using that mana, but play the Fimage and then play the new one. You go even on mana, but it kind of color fixes you a little bit. So that's another reason it's really good. You lose the old one. It's pretty
true,
cool.
But it does like ritual you in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Thassa's Oracle, like of course we got to win somehow. Talk to me about Valky.
This card is insane. I've loved this card ever since that first tournament. Like it did perform in the last game, and I did use it a little bit in the other ones, but I put this in randomly on a whim because I saw you randomly say in the Discord one time, I saw you say Valky's kind of a cool card, and I was like, oh yeah, let me look at it, and I just like put it in the deck. That's how I test cards. I just
randomly for like, this card seems pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's now becomes a mainstay of the deck. No, every single time I see you play it, I remind him like, this card seems pretty good. I have one. I realistically want to test it. I should be testing it. I haven't tossed it into any of my lists though.
Yeah,
what does it do for you? What does it do for you?
Okay, so first off, when it enters, you look at everybody's hand, but they don't see yours, and you exile a creature card out of it until it leaves, in which case it goes back to their hand, and then you could pay that much equal to the creature card exile to turn Valky into that, and it just becomes that. And so first off, it get probes all your opponents, and they don't look at you. And I've heard Atlas especially say that this is a bad thing because it makes people suspicious of your hand. But like I kind of just play control. I tend to play kind of slower. I'm not really like turboing, so it doesn't. I don't really care. I'll show people my hand sometimes. Like I don't care. And this just lets you see exactly what's going on. Even if you don't take a creature with it at all, just seeing everybody's hand for 2 mana on a creature, so it's harder to like counterspell and stuff. It's just really invaluable. At least I think so. In the first big tournament, like one of the only reasons why I won that game, besides a player misplaying, was because at the very beginning of the game, I literally Valky'd everybody, looked at their hands, and just like knew what was gonna happen in the game. Like I knew when I went to Thoracle, like I knew it was like clear.
Yeah.
Besides the bolt that he drew, but...
and that's the thing that always brings me back to like Valky being like, I think at one point I was thinking of it as like a Rakdos Grand Abolisher in a sense, because it can be like you gain perfect information on the entire game. Like you will know if it's like good to go or not, or like what you need to play around and how you need to like sort the turn. And I think that's a very powerful effect. I think it's one of those cards that I think has a decent punt conversion. Insofar as like you can play this and everyone immediately goes, okay, well we need to stop you. Like I feel like that is a real threat depending on the deck, but I think you have enough control pieces and you know how to talk your way through the table enough that you can probably weasel your way out of this.
Yeah. I also like that it does put your opponents down on card advantage if you steal creatures, which is pretty important. Also, in a creature-based meta, that's also really important. Like playing this early, I can take a mana dork and like they're just screwed.
Like, turn one, take your dork that you really need to cast your
Mm,
Tymna on turn two
yeah.
is like that's enough of a tempo swing to put you very, very
Yeah.
far ahead. Like even if Valky dies later on and the cards go back, like the damage has already been done. Like you've already been tempoed out of the game, or like you've missed the window to land your Dranith Magistrate to get Cormela out or whatever.
Exactly.
I don't think you ever take a Dranith Magistrate unless you really need Cormela out like immediately.
Yeah. No, probably
If
not.
that's
But
yeah, if that's what the hand permits. But that was just like the example.
yeah, and
Or
also
like the
becomes their thing. Like I could turn it into the
Yep.
dork I take. Like
Yep, which is it would, depending on the dork, it can color fix you. Like if you just rip a Deathrite Shaman, you can just pay one and have it become a Deathrite Shaman. Now you have a
exactly.
Deathrite Shaman, which is it is crazy. I imagine the backside's hardly relevant.
It like can be so like it can be a late game like form of removal because the
Mhm.
backside does exile a artifact or creature.
Yeah.
It's like probably not a good idea, but like it's an option. If you're able to do Saw half combo with Cormela and make all the infinite mana and all that,
Mhm.
you can use the backside as an outlet with Alchemist Retrieval by repeatedly
Oh.
playing it as the backside, exile top card of each opponent's library, and then Alchemist Retrieval it back to your hand. Then Sonhalf get retrieval back, then replay the Valky as the backside, and keep
Okay.
doing that. I've never done it, but like it's there.
It's theoretically there. It
Yeah.
can come up.
Uh,
Okay.
it's
No,
also
that's super cool.
it's also like one other thing on it is that you can activate the front ability multiple times to turn it
Mhm.
into different things as the stack resolves,
Mhm.
which like isn't like super relevant, but it can have some weird applications if you want to have different like static abilities active at different times. Like it's kind of weird, but if you like want to turn it into a Grand Abolisher and then put it on the stack to turn it into like some other thing, you can resolve it as a Grand Abolisher, cast some instants that help you, and then if you know you can't win, turn it into that other thing so that when it gets Gilded Draked, they don't have a Grand Abolisher.
That's insane.
It's very
That's
strange.
insane. That's no, no. That's super cool. I need to test this card now.
Yeah.
I'm convinced. I need to toss in a list and see how it performs.
I also
That's sweet.
I had a game just the other day where I Valky'd the table. I took a Dockside and a Viscera, and the Viscera was being used as a like a combo piece.
Yeah,
And nobody wanted to kill Valky because it would give someone a combo piece and a Dockside back. So Valky didn't die the entire game.
that's incredible.
And that's pretty
That's
important.
incredible.
So that's something to consider.
That is definitely something. That's so wild. That's so wild. All right. Baron Master Wizard. This is one that I think has very much fallen out of favor.
Mhm.
But you seem not convinced of that.
I keep putting it in and out of the deck, and I think it's pretty securely in the deck now.
Mhm.
It took me a while to get on it. I know Atlas suggested it to me a long time ago, and I wasn't really into it. But I'm completely in for it now because the thing is that like Dockside is such a strong card, and this just combos with Dockside. But more than that is that because it not only makes infinite mana on Dockside, but also lets me sacrifice something infinitely. It means
Mhm.
that I can use Cormela as an outlet to infinitely cast any instant or sorcery I want from my hand and graveyard.
Oh, okay.
Because once I have the infinite treasures, I can infinitely sack Cormela, infinitely cast her, infinitely sack her, infinitely repeatedly cast something. So
Okay.
it's worth it. It's just worth it. So
Okay.
it's an infinite mana
Yeah.
combo.
Also, it's interaction on board.
It is. That is actually really important too. I used to play Malevolent Hermit, and I think this just took the slot.
Yeah, I can see that. I think Malevolent Hermit's really only good in like just raw Grixis Adna is like turbo go fast. I feel like it's the only place that's decent
Yeah.
because it's a way for you to make a Grand Abolisher basically.
Yeah,
That's really it.
I've used it like that, and it was good, but it's just like I don't know. Sometimes you don't get to cast it from the graveyard and things like that and stuff like that.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Moving on to the next section, we got sorcery. So we're gonna start hitting some of the kind of heavier hitters, more of our payoff cards. Looking through this list, there's not a lot that I like see and go, okay, that's weird. I need you to explain that. I mean, we have Get Probe, good card. Imp Seal, good card. Reanimate, good card. Also gets your Cormela back after you die.
Mm-hmm.
Seems about right. Demonic Tutor, good card. Twin Flame, but no Dual Caster.
Yes.
And you're not on Dual Caster, and you're on Saw. So why why no dual caster?
So first off, Twin Flame is just another like Fimage,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, for one thing. But that's not why. It's because Twin Flame and Dockside with Cormela does kill the table. Because when you
Wait, what?
yeah, so as long as Dockside makes at least 3 treasures, you can play Twin Flame for its strive cost, target
Mhm.
both Dockside and Cormela. When that resolves, you'll get a fresh Cormela, and then get a Dockside ETB, which I'll have haste.
Mhm.
And with Cormela's Death Trigger, you get Twin Flame back. You use 1 treasure from the Dockside to tap Cormela, make 3, then use the other 2 to do it again, and you make
Mhm.
infinite hasty Docksides. Um,
Oh.
and if you
Oh.
make just 1 more
Okay.
treasure, you get infinite mana too.
You said the count was 3 for that?
Yeah, you only need to make 3 treasures.
Damn.
That's way better than
Okay.
Baron too, who needs like
That
a
is
lot more than that.
yeah, because what Baron
Needs
is
6, I think.
Yeah, you need 6. Oh.
Yeah, so that's
Okay, so we just don't need dual caster. That's the reason.
yeah. It's dual caster's not an instant sorcery, you know. Like
You got me there. It absolutely is that. Okay. No, that's every single time someone goes, okay, so we have Twin Flame and we're gonna use the Strive ability on it, I go, oh.
Yeah, most people don't even know.
Okay,
it does
we're
that,
cooking.
but
We're
it's
cooking.
good. It's really good, and Cormela can pay
Okay.
for it too. It's cool.
It is an all. That's insane. Okay. That's sweet. All right. I like that.
And sometimes I
Not gonna lie.
just do that, like, cause like it's a little, cause Dockside's already a generically good card, and
we're already playing Dockside. Yeah.
and
There's
sometimes I just like default to Saw Dark Ritual combo, but this one's a little better because like I think Dockside's a better card than Dark Ritual, and Twin Flame costs 1 mana less than Sawnap, and it gets the job done, you know.
Also, I feel like it's not gonna eat a lot of attention. Like I think people like are vaguely aware enough that like Cormela is gonna play Saw in half and it's gonna like do crazy stuff. But like if you Twin Flame your Ragavan, I'm looking at Ragavan. If you Twin Flame your Dockside, Ragavan's not not gonna do much. If you Twin Flame your Dockside, everyone goes, okay, cool. Like that's just like value, and you strive, and it's like, oh, okay, sure. I don't know what this does.
Yeah.
I feel like it has that X factor component.
I had a scenario where I cast it for its strive cost. People didn't know what was happening, but because I resolved it once and made another Dockside, it gave me enough mana to continue to do it with protection. And because people didn't notice it on the first go around, they no longer were able to interact. Like they had a window, but they lost it.
They just didn't know that was the point to interact.
Yeah, because then I'll be like, I'll do it again.
That's insane. Oh, I love that. That's crazy. Yeah, who needs dual caster?
Yeah, who needs it?
Dual caster? I hardly know her. That's insane. All right, moving on. We got some more staple stuff. Grim Tutor. Is this just density and because like it's easier to cast with Cormela?
Yeah, it's a little hard because of the double black, but it's just another tutor. I found that I'm not on Nas, so
it's just demonic tutor. You tap a land for a black, and you tap anything for Cormela mana. It's just another tutor.
Well, she can't pay for it like with 1 land, right?
True. Well, I guess what I'm saying, like, it's roughly the same casting cost as like demonic tutor.
Yeah.
So you have a black source and a mana. Like it pays for the Grim Tutor.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Since going on down ad nauseam, I'm like, I can play this card now. I don't need to worry about it.
That's fair.
And I play Toxic, obviously.
Yeah, Toxic's a great one. There's a spicy card and a not so spicy card. So Peer into the Abyss. You mentioned you're not on Adnaz. You play you play an instant sorcery dork. Like this makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Peer 7, Cormela taps for 3. Like you only need to generate 4 mana beyond that.
Yeah.
And 2 of which needs to be double black, which seems pretty easily doable.
Yeah, you can like
that makes sense.
Pretty like reliably, like as long as you get the mana drop on the turn after you play Cormela, you can just play Peer right away. With no protection, but like you can. The mana just like works out.
If you have a lot of mana and you feel like the window's there, you can just take it.
Yeah,
so that makes sense. Blasphemous Act. This every single time I see you play this card, I'm like, this is insane. This card's nuts.
It's a 1 mana board wipe.
It's a 1 mana board wipe that gets you back a Force of Will for like protection or like a tutor or whatever.
Yeah. Well, my favorite thing about Blasphemous Act and Toxic Deluge, although Toxic Deluge is obviously like a bit better, is that it does kill Cormela, but on top of that, it also you can grab it back as you kill Cormela. So one of the things I often do is that I'll kill Cormela with Toxic Deluge and just put Toxic Deluge in my hand and be like, just don't play creatures, guys. Just don't do it anymore.
Like I will deluge. I'm not on ad noms.
Yeah.
My life total isn't at a premium. Not that seems ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really annoying. Like Blasphemous Act is pretty annoying when you're a creature deck. But imagine like someone casts it and then immediately just puts it back in their hand. Like they've just buybacked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely had games where people are like, yeah, I'm just gonna like keep looping. I'm just gonna keep like recurring. Or no, I've had that happen to me, and I've done that to people. Or I have like Eternal Witness, Kiki Jiki, and then removal in the graveyard, and I just tap. I just like, I'm just going to play control. I'm just gonna control the board.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm just going to make a copy of my Eternal Witness, add back this removal spell, and just remove your thing. You're not putting anything on the stack that like I can't like fight.
Yeah,
like, doing creature stuff. Like I will just fight you on
evil.
the ground. Yeah. So I understand like the mentality behind that. That's insane. I guess we'll break down more into it once we get into like your removal and whatnot, because that's a decent chunk of your instance. But like, how necessary is it for your removal to be able to turn around and like kill Cormela?
Oh yeah, it's super important. I even played Blue Elemental Blast for a brief period of time just to have.
That's insane.
Just because it would hit Breach and Dockside and Winota, and it also killed Cormela. But yeah, that's a huge like part. I think generally, pretty much all my removal besides like Submerge that I'm playing right now, does kill Cormela. Let's see, do I have anything that doesn't? No, it all kills Cormela. And that's really important because like sometimes you just have to kill her. Like you've sat at a table with me. How many times have I asked the question, "Can anyone kill Cormela right now?" Like
a lot. You ask that a lot when something crazy is on the stack and you have like a counter spell in the yard.
Yeah, it's very important. So I think the only thing I play right now, I'm besides like the bounce, like Chain of Vapor, like and Submerge. Yeah, pretty much everything kills her, and it has to. It's just like gives you more access to the yard.
That makes sense. I feel like being able to turn around and use those removal spells as counter spells is a very critical thing for a deck like this. Considering like you don't have card draw in the command zone, so you need to be able to recur and change your resources pretty fast and pretty efficiently. So no, that all makes sense to me. All right, the meat and potatoes time. They got the instance.
Yeah, but Grixis deck for sure.
A Grixis deck. Name me a Grixis deck that hates instants and sorceries. I'll wait. Yeah, so just kind of running through the list before I go card by card. Like it's a lot of like, okay, these are all like good cards that I would expect to see. We got some weirdo ones that you're gonna need to talk me through.
Yeah.
But starting at like the top of your list, although it's not the top of the CMC, we have a lot of zero mana interaction. We got SWAT, Fierce Guardianship, Force of Negation, Force of Will, Mind Break Trap, Pact of Negation, Submerge. These all read as pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah.
Good cards. They free interaction. Very good.
Yeah. The only one that's like new to this deck is Submerge. I just run into a lot of green decks, and I think there's just so much green, and it's always free. So like
we got a lot of green in our meta. So that makes sense.
And no Nas anymore, so I can play it. That also matters. I keep saying that, but
I know you keep saying that, but like that's a huge. That is a huge like deck building requirement. Like you can't play Submerge in a Nas list. So you just can't. You can maybe get away with Mind Break Trap if you're also fighting a lot of turbo and you need it. But realistically, like you don't want to play your interactives. Like you don't want to play like the big free interactive spells that are not Force of Will, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
Total sense to me.
I also want to say I was first on Mind Break Trap.
You absolutely were. I remember the conversation me, you, and Atlas had when we were going through one of your lists, and Atlas was like, Mind Break Trap, that card seems bad.
Yeah.
And then like 6 months later, Atlas was like, I do not play a list without this card.
Yeah.
This card is insane. And it's always one of those cards that I seldom remember in my calculus when it comes to comes time to combo. I'm like, yeah, I can fight a counter spell. I have like ways to play through it and I can like play around it and yada yada. And then someone goes Mind Break Trap, and I go, son of a bitch, that's my Dockside exile that I want to reanimate.
It exiles them. It's so funny.
It's ridiculous. No, Mind Break Trap has been insane every single time I've seen it come up.
Yeah, one of a thing with it, I've been playing against a lot of Yurikos lately. There's a lot of Yurikos, and they like to play Misdirection. And I realized that if Mind Break Trap targets more than one spell, you can't misdirection it, because misdirection can only target a spell that has a single target. And Mind Break Trap can have multiple targets, so it's really good right now.
Definitely. Because does you can't, I forget, can you mind break trap target itself? No, because it needs targets before
No, but you can play for
you
0 with no
yeah, you
targets,
can. Yeah,
which
you
is really
can.
funny.
It's pretty funny. All right. Moving down to our ones. Again, a lot of just like stuff that makes sense. Alchemist Retrieval seems kind of crazy here because Cormela can just like loop the mana, right?
Yeah,
Uh Chain
safe
of
stuff.
Vapor, good card. Culling the Weak. This is a combo ritual, right?
No, it's just you can kill Cormela.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but like you can it can make your peer like really safe because it can help pay for
Mhm.
your peer after you've tapped Cormela and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a combo in the polymorph version of this deck, which I'm not going to talk about right now because it's a whole can of worms. But like, it was a combo piece there, but not here. But it's just really good.
Okay. Okay. Dark Ritual. We'll save the talk for Dark Ritual when we get to Sawn Half because I want you to like kind of run through that line because it's been a while for me. I vaguely understand. Or I vaguely remember how the combo works, but I'll let you kind of cover it.
Yeah, for sure.
Demonic Consultation.
Yeah, kind
But
of
I
cringe.
understand. Yeah, I kind of cringe, but I understand. Entomb seems insane in this list because while you aren't on any reanimation target, this says grab an instant or sorcery if you can kill Cormella.
Exactly. Yeah.
That seems insane. Flusterstorm standard. Bolt. Bolt doesn't kill Cormella.
Yeah. So that one's kind of important because that doesn't kill Cormela, but it does. It's a finisher for Saw and Half. It's attached to
Okay.
that card.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, and also like I think you can bluff like a block and then just like bolt your Cormella to get a kill
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, that can
Makes
definitely
sense.
happen too.
Mental Misstep makes sense. Mystical Tutor makes sense. Rapid Hybridization, Red Blast, I think are really really good here because like you mentioned, like they're good generically and they kill Cormella.
Yeah, that's really big.
Okay. You're on the Stern Scolding. A brave soldier among us on the Stern Scolding. Why do you feel it necessary for you to be on Stern Scolding, but Blue Form to not be on it?
So I've been testing it, and I do think it is really good. I think what I found is it just does hit everything. A lot of the times, I had this one game where somebody knew I had a Stern Scolding in hand and played a creature that met the criteria and then had to reread their creature when I Stern Scolding it because they didn't realize it's not just like its power, it's its toughness
It's
too.
toughness as well.
And like that kind of hits a lot of stuff. Like it doesn't hit like Winota and all this stuff, but like you'd kind of be surprised.
A lot of stuff are 2 power or 2 toughness. Like the recruiters of the guard and recruiters of the Imperial. Recruiters of the
Imperium.
recruiters of the Imperial recruiter and recruiter of the guard. Like those are good cards because there's a lot of 2 or less cards that they grab that are very very relevant.
Yeah.
I'm still a believer of the Stern Scolding. I think the only thing that always pulls me away from Stern Scolding is like, would I rather have a more wider reaching counterspell, or do I just want another piece of removal? I think is like the question I always get myself to. But then I also go, well, this counters a Grand Abolisher and a Thoracle very cleanly on the stack.
Exactly.
Like those are fine. I think that's a fine enough criteria to include Stern Scolding for because it hits exactly those cards.
Yeah, and like it's kind of in a weird slot in my deck where so I don't play Offer. I don't really like the card. Maybe it's just our meta.
You aren't on Offer.
Yeah.
Huh.
I've played in like other decks before. I just don't like it in this deck. And I creatures are just so important for me to deal with. At least like right now I feel like that Stern Scolding is just what I'm playing in that slot. I've played like Dispel and stuff like that, but before in that slot. And hitting a creature or an instant, I prefer a creature, and it tends to hit all the creatures.
Okay.
Not all of them, but it's a lot of them.
Not all of them, but enough of the relevant ones at like key times, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I'm gonna skip the next spell in the list.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
We'll cover that in a minute. Swan Song, Vamp Tutor, good cards. 2 drops. Brain Freeze, Cabal Ritual, Psych Rift, Delay, Tainted Pact.
I do not see it.
Anything I don't I'm missing here, like these. You're in Grixis, you play these cards, right?
Oh yes, of course.
Okay. The elephant in the room.
Let's go.
You are on the Stifle package. You are on Raw Stifle and what most people would consider to be the only playable Stifle effect in Trickbind. Me and you have had extensive conversations about this. It has warped our meta for a small period of the time. Stifles. Talk to me.
So I was writing for a little while what I'd call a stifle manifesto that I never finished.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I was just like ranking them and explaining them, but maybe I'll finish it someday. But like I said,
That sounds incredible.
Trick Bind is like the best one, and the way I think about Trick Bind is it's sort of like a weird uncounterable counter spell. Originally it was in the slot of Delay, but I also play Delay now,
Yeah.
because Delay took the slot of Mana Drain. But the way I think about Trick Bind is that it it's a very safe card to keep in your hand, and it hits people from an angle they don't expect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the way I use it, is like
Mm-hmm.
I'll let your Dockside resolve because I don't play a lot of creature counters, but I will stifle it. And like that can be kind of like weird if they have a way to like bounce it or something. But you can also like trick bind the bounce. You can trick bind things like Kenrith activation, etc. Obviously can't trick bind a cloud shift, but you could trick bind like Displacer Kitten's trigger or something. And it's really just a counter spell that just can't be interacted with for me. Although I did get a counterbalance countered one time. That kind of
That's
sucks.
insane. Yeah. You once explained Stifles to me as the slowest counter spell you can play, and at that moment I went, okay, there's an argument. There's like a genuine argument here, because I think the scenario you explained to me is like, okay, Thorkel on the stack. If people have counter spells, like it'll bait out. You can safely say with only Trick Bind in your hand, like I cannot counter this spell, and people will fight over it, do whatever, and then you go, cool, trigger on the stack. I'm gonna Trick Bind
Yeah, it kills
after
them.
everybody. It kills them, and it kills them. So like that's obviously like the ideal, but like the idea of like it being the slowest counter spell that you can very cleanly say, I don't have a counter spell in hand, I can still deal with this very cleanly though, is like that I did a whole 180 on that when you told me about that.
Yeah.
I still don't play stifle effects because I'm weak.
Yeah, you gotta have the guts to let that stuff resolve.
You really do. But also, I don't know, like I hear about all these, like it's one of those like really good gacha cards that like every single time I see it, I'm like, is it a gacha card or is it like actually like good? Like, because there's just so many different like scenarios that like it comes up. Like Trick Bind stops any Kenrith loops. It stops Kitten loops. It stops Kiki Jiki stuff. It stops Yisons.
I gotta say,
a million things.
One of the things I did for the manifestos, I made a comprehensive list of everything relevant in CDH that it stops, and I had to stop writing it because it was too long. It's so much stuff.
Well, like,
that's when I
also,
stopped working on it.
It's also one of those things that's like it's like you said, like stifles hit on that angle that you don't expect, like so commonly. Like the window of interaction for a lot of the decks I play isn't like the big thing on the on the stack. It's the Dockside I'm trying to sneak through at like a weird moment.
Yeah.
Because once the trigger resolves, I have the Saw in half in hand. I will just play on top of you, and like I have things I can just do to go past, or like I need this Eternal Witness to land to revive, to like get this crucial thing in my hand. I need this value Kiki activation to go through. Like these are the points of interaction that I look for. And like Stifle hits on those that like your normal removal spell or normal bounce spell just doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think it's so undervalued, and I hesitate to say underappreciated, because I think everybody knows the power of Trick Bind. Like Trick Bind your Thorkel, you die, haha, gotcha. You know, like you don't die to Thorkel with this in hand.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't.
Yeah, literally. And I think the effect is like good enough that I do play Stifle itself. Like
if you have to play two of them, the Stifle and Trick Bind are the best ones to play.
Yeah, there is one
Crab.
more that's probably better than Stifle itself, and it's Mirror Shell Crab. I think that card is insane. But like, yeah. I think you have to have the right deck for it. I play it in the other deck I'm playing, Vol, and it's incredible in Yuriko. But like in this, it's not an instant source for me to get back, so it's not worth it. I don't think it's worth it. But otherwise, it would just go in this deck.
Yeah. Also, this is still the funniest shit to me. You can stifle the storm triggers on Flusterstorm.
God, that was like when I did that to Jaden in the tournament game. He lost his fucking mind.
He did, and then like the next week for our weeklies, you did it again to someone.
I've done it a lot. I did it the other day, I think, because I play it in my Vol deck right now, and it's crazy. Yeah, you could stifle storm triggers. There's so much stuff you can hit. One of the reasons I specifically like Mirror Shell Crab, although it's not in this deck, but I have played it in it before, is that you can counter stuff through Grand Abolisher and Ranger Captain.
Which is the crazy thing about Mirror Shell Crab. Like, it's a meme card until you go, it's a channeled ability. Those are so good right now.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's Beseiju. That card is literally just Beseiju. It is.
I forget if I asked you, but why the crab? No, I know why the crab over like Nimble Obstructionist, because Nimble Obstructionist doesn't say counter spell.
Yeah, it doesn't hit counters. It doesn't hit spells. It also can't hit your own stuff, which usually doesn't matter. But I did used to play Final Fortune this deck. I'm not right now, just because it's a little slower right now. But it does counter your Final Fortune Death Trigger, which is really funny.
Okay, I feel like we can continue to talk about stifles for a while, but you're a big stifle enjoyer, and you have put up results with stifle. Like, I can't. That is just true.
It's so good.
Like, you have done a lot of crazy stuff with stifles, so much so that like for a while, our meta was like, we actually have to consider like getting stifled at these points.
Yeah,
like it's insane. Like that was
cuts them off.
That was the part of the usual like calculus that people had to perform. Is like, if I got stifled here, I fucking die.
Yeah. So after that, I have like Fire Covenant.
Yep.
I really like the card Instant Speed.
You're not on Adnaz.
Exactly.
You should be playing it.
Yeah. I'm trying Force of Despair right now. I suggest
talk to me about this card.
Yeah, I suggested for my friend August her Yuriko deck, and I mean, I see a card, I throw it in my own deck, obviously.
True.
I was going up on black cards as I was coming off of Adnaz, like Grim Tutor and Fire Covenant, and a later card Hostile Negotiations, and like Necromancy and all these cards. And I was like, I have a lot more black cards in the deck. Is there something I could do with that? And I hate creatures in this deck. And Force of Despair is a way to, get rid of them. It is kind of a gotcha card,
It definitely is a gotcha card.
But like
I hate seeing this card. I don't like this card because I'm a Kiki Jiki player.
It does
says you die.
Yeah, it literally like it catches people. So like there's so many decks that I've seen. I've even seen Atlas do this where he just like has one turn where he just deploys his board. Like he has that window, and this spell is free. So it's like it just
it is.
Sometimes it just does it.
It sometimes does. No, this is a card I think I tried a little bit in Chainer for a while, and I think I decided on some other thing. I was already going down on card advantage with my normal game plan. I didn't need another. No, I think I tried Force of Despair, and then I tried Pyrokinesis, and found I like Pyrokinesis.
That card's so good.
I'm a big proponent of Pyrokinesis. That card's so good.
Yeah,
it's Force of Winota.
Yeah, I was playing that in Gearson. And I was surprised James didn't have it in his deck, and I was playing it, and it's so good in Gearson because it works with him.
You split it.
It.
That's insane. That's insane. Yeah, no, okay. No, I do like the Force of Despair tech. I think especially given our meta, I think it works more. That I think it's definitely warranted, and I think you definitely do see a decent amount of results.
Yeah, I don't think I'd always play it though. For sure.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I think that's easily one of the easiest flex slots I think in the deck.
For sure.
You can just like change it around to any other like good removal spell that you just need more spot removal, or even like another. I don't know. You can run. Oh God, what's the Languish? You can run Languish.
Yeah, Languish
as well.
Kills Cormela.
That's the reason why I suggested is it kills Cormela.
Yeah, I got a French copy.
Ooh, language. All right. Intuition. Is there a true pile in this list that I'm not?
Yeah.
I don't see an obvious list, but an obvious pile. But I imagine with Cormela you have true piles.
Yeah, if Cormela's out, there's true piles. If not, you can do some. They're a little harder. If she's in the graveyard, you definitely can as well. But mainly it's for when she's out. If she's in the command zone, like it's it's probably not involving her. You know what I mean? It also depends on what you have access to.
No, for sure, for sure. I definitely see, just like looking through this list, like intuition's like it's you play it because it gets 3 cards and your commander
It
interacts with the
exactly.
graveyard.
It's so cool.
Like it's really good. All right. Next up, Sawn Half. So walk me through. So again, I kind of said this earlier. I feel like everyone knows that Cormela combos with Sawn Half. What does that combo look like? What does it do?
So you need the first thing obviously you need Sonhaf and you need Cormela on the battlefield.
Mhm.
You need some sort of ritual that not only can pay for itself but activate Cormela and go mana positive. So Dark Ritual does all of that. It makes for 1 mana it makes 3, so it can pay for itself. That's 1. You can activate Cormela. That's 2, and then you have a spare third.
Mhm.
Cabal Ritual with Threshold does it too, because it makes 5 mana, right? It makes
Mhm.
5. Yeah, makes 5. 2 of that pays for itself. 1 activates Cormela. That's 2 extra. Jessica's Will also can do it if players have enough, at least 5 cards in hand, I think it is, because 3 pays for itself, 4 activates Cormela, and then you're good.
Mhm.
Any more will be infinite. I don't play Jessica's Will right now because I don't think it's that great right now, but any sort of ritual like that can do it.
Okay. Okay.
And the idea is Dark Ritual's like the easiest one. Although
We'll,
Cabal
we'll
Ritual is
just
like
we'll just stick that we'll just stick to Dark Ritual for
yeah,
like the example.
yeah. So essentially, what you do, you can have Dark Ritual in the graveyard when you start it.
Mhm.
Just Sawn Half does have to be in your hand, and if it's in the graveyard, you just have to have a little more mana.
Mhm.
But the idea is you activate Cormela, you cast the Dark Ritual, you go to 5 mana essentially. You have blue, red, and 3 black. You use the blue and the red and 1 of the black, so you have 2 left to cast Sawn Half, targeting Cormela.
Mhm.
This will do a couple of things. So it kills her. So you get a death trigger right away because there's a Cormela death. But also legendary rule will kick in and create 2 Cormelas. One of them just
Mhm.
dies to legend rule. Um, at the same time as the legend rule, well, after the legend rule kicks in and state-based actions are checked, you get 2 triggers off of Cormela, 2 separate Cormelas to return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter which order you do it in unless there's like really weird shenanigans you do. If there's really weird shenanigans going on. But you return Sawn Half with one of them, and you return Dark Ritual with the other. And then you have a fresh Cormela, and you have 2 mana available. Use one of it to activate Cormela, and you do it again.
Okay.
So you've net 1 black.
Mhm.
And the idea is you keep doing that, making infinite black over and over and over again, because you'll net 1 every time. After that, you continue the loop, but instead you use that black and start netting the blue that Cormela makes,
Mhm.
and then you continue it making the red that Cormela makes. So you never actually get like blue and red mana that you can use on non-instants or sorceries. You just don't.
Mhm.
You'll have to have some other way to convert it if you need to, like for the Valky thing. Um, but you'll make infinite blue, black, and red. But the important part is after that. So here's the last step.
Yeah, okay, we have the infinite. We've
Yeah.
we've established it already. Now we got to figure out our kill.
Yeah, so now you don't have to loop Dark Ritual anymore because you have infinite mana. Now you can loop any other spell.
Okay.
Because Cormela can cast all your instants and sorceries, and you can repeatedly just Sawn Half, always returning Sawn Half and whatever that other spell is.
Mhm.
Like the easiest option is Lightning Bolt. You loop Lightning Bolt and kill everybody. You can loop
Definitely, yep.
Demonic Tutor to get any card you want. I've played Praetor's Grasp before, and you Praetor's Grasp everyone's library, and then you cast all their cards. And you use their stuff to mana convert and stuff like that. There's a lot of options. I usually just lightning bolt everybody. Like before I even tutor for the lightning bolt, I'll be like, I'm gonna lightning bolt you all to death, and then everyone scoops. Like I don't even
Yeah,
have to.
here's the bolt. Like I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, you're dead.
Yeah.
You guys are dead.
Okay.
You can also loop intuition to get anything you want.
True. True. Yeah, no, it's very reminiscent of like just the dual caster saw and half lines, but you're doing stuff with your graveyard and you're doing stuff with instants and sorceries versus like onboard creatures to make an army or make infinite ETBs or whatever. Although with Bowmaster, you can't. Can you loop Bowmaster with that loop?
No, that's really only a dual caster thing, and that's kind of like a
Okay.
thing why I'm thinking of playing dual caster again because it is so good with Orcish,
Hmm.
Orcish Bowmasters. But yeah, you can't do it with that.
Okay.
But if you have like another way to like, I don't know, kill it and then reanimate it over and over again, like you know, you
When
can
you make
you can do that.
infinite regular black, I guess you can like
Oh, you could
necromancy.
if you got a twin flame, you can repeatedly cast a twin flame on it, and like just something like that.
That's true. That's true. Okay, maybe you don't need dual caster. You have the line already built in.
Yeah, you could do that. It's funny.
Yeah. Sawn half. That's insane. Because it's not quite a 1-card combo, but you run enough rituals and you want to like power stuff out anyway. That like it's sort of like a 1-card combo with the commander.
One of the things that I've heard a lot is that Cormela's a 1-card combo with Demonic Tutor, because you cast Demonic Tutor, get Sawn half, get Demonic Tutor and Sawn half, use Demonic Tutor to get Dark Ritual, and now you have all the pieces. The problem is that costs like
a lot of mana.
That costs so much fucking mana.
Yeah.
Even with Cormela giving you mana, I think it's like 8. I think it's like 8 mana like to start it. I've had people like I've had 2 mana out before and like Cormela off of a Jewel Lotus, and people are like, Eckszy can win right now. Demonic Tutor's a 1-card win con, and I'm like, no, it's not. Like it's not happening right now. I have like 4 mana. So
the margins on that are so tight that like if that were true, that like turn 2 Cormela off a Jewel Lotus like plus Demonic Tutor is win. Like I feel like we would be seeing Cormela more.
Yeah, no. Also, Pyranibus is 1 less mana, I think, to do the Demonic Tutor line,
and it's consistent.
Yeah, so it's like it's not happening.
Okay,
but yeah, I like. Yeah. It's a good card. The one thing I miss about the old Goryo's Vengeance combo is that like that could be pulled off of Cormela's in the yard, and that doesn't work with the Saw combo. Also, with the old combo, there's no point of interaction while Cormela's on the battlefield for people to interact.
That was the one thing.
It got around everything.
That's why I really like that combo, because all of your stuff that you were doing was you either could play on top of or was all mana abilities that you could just play through everything.
I still do that in the polymorph variant because it's good with the polymorph target, but it is kind of sad to not have that. Also, I guess I don't have to play the Phyrexian Altar anymore though, so that's pretty good. But
would you go back on one of the altars in theory?
I did have Ashnod's Altar in it for a little bit, just because I just like threw Goryo's back in, and it was just the altar just feels pretty bad. Like as my cards have gotten better in the deck, a card like that just feels much more dead.
Yeah, and you're not like it's cool. It's like a consistent sack out with Cormela, but I feel like you've run into situations, because I've run into a lot of these situations where like, yeah, I want my commander to die often, but it's more like I need to just have a consistent access to it rather than a button that's all the way always there. And like you're only on 7 creatures. You're not like pumping out like creature tokens or whatever. Although you did try. I remember that version. That version was sick.
Yeah, the Cedh Witch and stuff. Yeah,
that thing is cool. That version was dope.
I still have a deck list that is focused around that, like on my phone. It's cool.
I love it. But like it's definitely a different style. I think this is probably just generically stronger, and I think it's way more flexible. It doesn't pigeonhole you in a lot.
Yeah,
and, like the payoff is there, but you have to lose some card quality for it. A weaker individual would say, "We'll just cut the stifle package and play another like unique win line." But we don't do that here. We don't do that here.
Not even.
All right. Last instant in sorcery, hostile negotiations. This card's fun.
This thing's pretty cool. This took the slot of Adna's for me, just because it gives me cards and doesn't. I mean, it does hurt me, but it kind of does the same thing. It's 1 card, and you get to see 6 cards. Essentially, which is like kind of insane. It's instant speed, which I like a lot. Resolving this is like I don't think I've ever resolved this in a scenario where the person didn't give me the pile I asked for, like because I have such a small board presence that I can always talk the person into giving me exactly what I want. I've even had scenarios where like both piles are incredible, and I just like have access to both of them because the other cards go into your yard. You know,
Should I
explain what this card does? That's kind of complicated.
Yeah, I think this card is not on the database. No one knows what this card is. Yeah, if you want to read the card.
Yeah, so you egg for 4 mana, 3 black, 3 colors and a black. Sorry, it's an instant. It has a lot of text. You exile the top 3 cards of your library in a face down pile, and then you exile the next top 3 cards of your library in another face down pile, and then you look at them. It takes a long time to resolve this spell, by the way. Then you turn a pile of your choice face up. So you get to look at both the piles, and then one of your choice goes face up, the other stays face down. And then an opponent chooses one of those piles. It's kind of like intuition, where you don't have to target a person though, but you do choose a person to do it. And then put the pile that the opponent chose into your hand and the other into your graveyard, and then you lose 3 life.
So it's almost like it's like a weird fact or fiction.
Yeah, it's essentially like a fact or fiction that's a little bigger.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird because like it. So the 3 cards that go into your graveyard, sometimes you can get in a scenario where like there's cards you don't want to put in your graveyard. Like I did have a scenario where there was a breach in one pile, but like I needed the Mystical More in the other pile, and I was like, I guess I'm not breaching today, because like there's not really a lot of ways to get it back into these colors.
Yeah, I think it's like exactly time twister effects to really get it.
There's Recall
Or
that I was playing for a little while.
or
That's not
like,
CDH5.
or if like you get endurance or whatever, like you have very few ways to put it back yourself.
Yeah, but yeah, this card in this deck literally just it draws you 6 cards, really. You do kind of have to pick which ones go into your hand, but you can easily just like convince somebody to give you one of the piles. Choosing which pile to reveal is also kind of weird, because like it's like an honesty thing. Like like you can kind of like tell the person what's in the face down pile. Like they might not believe you, but I have told what was in it before.
Yeah,
it's kind of strange, but as long as you know how to talk the table, you'll get the 3 cards you want.
I feel like this is a really good skill test of how you can talk to a table.
Yeah.
How you use it, because I feel like there are 2 ways that this goes down. You do this and you say like, oh, the other pile is like nothing, and then they give you the nothing pile, and then you're like, haha, my intuition was in there. My intuition plus force of will and pitch card was in there, you stinker. Yeah. Or like you said, like you just go, no, like these are the 2 piles, like this is what I think. I might prefer this pile, but like I don't have that choice.
Yeah, I think what really sets us apart from fact or fiction is it's not a numbers game. You don't make a 3 pile and a 1 pile. You always get 3 cards. And that's pretty important, because this deck really wants cards. And you'll always get 3, and it might not be the ones you want, but sometimes it's just the number that you need.
Yeah.
Also, like how scary the pile you reveal is. Like I had one pile that I revealed that was like, it was like Dockside, Intuition, and then like Dark Ritual, and I revealed that pile because the other pile had the combo pieces I needed to win right now.
So it's like, well, we're not giving you everything, right?
But like
that's what's going on.
The other pile had like Saw in Half.
Oh my god!
A counter spell, then like another counter spell.
Holy shit! So it literally didn't matter.
Yeah,
like, it's fact or fiction, baby. It did not matter.
And the Dark Ritual went to the graveyard. It's fine.
Oh my god. That's so stupid. No, I like this. And also, like you said, like fact or fiction, you're only going to see 4 cards. This lets you see 6 cards. Like just on the raw, like, okay, how much resource does this mana give you? Like you're just getting more. Like you lose 3 life, but like you said, you're not on ad nause. You have a commander that people don't want to die, or don't want to die realistically. So you have like a perfect blocker essentially. Like your health, your life total can be juiced in these weird ways.
Yeah,
I really like this card. I think this card's pretty spicy for what you're doing. Also, Cormela ramps into this.
Yeah,
like, what more do you want?
One very crazy thing I did with it one time was we needed a board wipe in some scenario. There's like a green deck at the table, and I resolved the negotiations. And there was a board wipe in both piles, but notably an opponent had a Douthie, which means whatever pile I didn't get went under the Douthie. So I convinced them to give me the pile that had a Blasphemous Act in it, and then under the Douthie I put the Toxic Deluge.
Holy shit!
So what happened was I talked them into using that Toxic Deluge first, because I was like, oh, I'll hold up the Blasphemous Act, they'll just redeploy, whatever. And so they cracked the Douthie, did the Toxic Deluge enough to kill Cormela, which then put the Toxic Deluge back in my hand. So I had 2 board wipes in my hand, and Douthie was gone. It was so funny.
Wow. That's insane. Like these are a lot of, like you don't run into these scenarios where it's like it's the Atlas thing. Like you're gonna guide someone into the noose that you're about to hang them with, and they're gonna thank you for it.
Yeah, it's so silly.
It's insane. All right, well that covers the instants and sorceries. Now we're on to artifacts. This one, like it's straightforward.
Yeah, pretty standard.
Yeah, very very standard. You are the only there are like three. There are two things that I would say are like pretty non-standard. One, you're on all of the talismans. Why?
Yeah, Cormela's 4 mana, and I don't have
Mhm.
mana dorks in this deck. It's really important that I get to her.
Ah, okay.
Also, once I get to her, I go from 4 to 6 mana, and it's just a huge
Mm,
jump, and the talismans just get me there.
okay.
I used to only play 2 of them, but 3 of them is better.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's the standard like okay, my commander costs like it's exactly like you said. My commander costs 4 mana, so my 2-drop rocks are going to be at a better premium because they're going to get my commander out
Yeah,
faster.
and she's
and
color
on
intensive
curve.
too.
That's very very true. Also, I imagine you get into a decent amount of scenarios where like you do your loop to make infinite mana, but for whatever reason you need to convert into like real mana to like cast a Thoracle or whatever, and like the talismans will let you be able to do that through the
Oh
combo
yeah,
because
after a
you make
pier or something.
yeah
Yeah.
after a peer like there are ways to convert your like junk mana into actual usable mana, which makes sense. Makes sense. Um, this is a card that everyone in our playgroup has been testing. And I'm pretty convinced on it, but it's the One Ring. Every single time I see this card hit the table, either you don't die on that turn or you draw a million cards.
Yeah, it's so good. This is ad nause but better. It really is. It's I don't think there's much more to say about it. It's playing like every deck in modern and stuff, like
Yeah,
or the sideboard, and it's just ad nauseum. For this deck, it's ad nause. For other decks, it's like
just
whatever
crazy.
else. Like
Yeah, it's just
it's
insane. It's
ancestral
just insane.
recall or something. Like
Yeah, because every single time I read this card, I go, okay, so I play it, it draws me one card, I untap, I draw two cards. Oh.
yeah,
Because
it's
it reads so unassuming. And I feel like a decent amount of decks are starting to catch on to it. At least for our area, I feel like a lot of us are very, very, very high on this card.
yeah, it's
I
great
feel like
top deck
everyone's
tutors
mind playing.
too. It's
Oh
like an
yeah.
on demand draw.
Hmm.
It's kind of silly that like a Lord of the Rings card is like one of the best cards in Magic. That's kind of I think that's the one thing that's very silly about this card.
Very
Like
on flavor magic card too, because like Orcish Bowmasters could literally be any like sets.
yeah,
Uh, has orcs in it, and like they're probably gonna have bows and arrows, but like the One Ring is like okay,
that's the freaking that's the Sauron thing.
that's the
That's
Sauron.
Frodo.
That's Frodo.
I act like I have no idea what I'm talking.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Oh,
No,
Gimli had that.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
No, this is Treebeard's ring, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that makes sense. Like you said, like you don't have card draw in the command zone, so you need more. You just need more ways to draw cards, which
Yeah,
makes sense.
it's so important. Yeah.
All right. Enchantments again, like pretty standard. Mystic Remora, Breach, Black Market Connections is like the only weird one, but we've talked about Black Market Connections in the past.
Yep.
What Necromancy versus Animate Dead is because it's instant speed.
Pretty much. I've played Animate Dead before in this deck, and it's great with Alchemist Retrieval because you can Alchemist Retrieval the Animate Dead and get a Cormela Death trigger, and then still Animate Dead her again later. And Necromancy just does that too, but at instant speed.
Okay,
So
that makes sense. Yeah, I'm no, I'm on Animate Dead in my list, but that's because I need the density. And then Risk Study, like again, like nothing really I feel like needs to be said
yeah,
here. Black Market Connections is good when you're not on Adnaz, and the rest of these cards are like
yeah.
staple.
You said Ristic Study. That's unstable harmonics.
I'm sorry, that is unstable harmonics. My apologies. Man, I don't know how to read.
It's got League of Legends characters in the
It's
art.
got League of Legends characters in it. I mean, we do have the holy trifecta of Fortnite, League of Legends,
you're right.
and Lord of the Rings.
I
So
forgot. I
like,
do have the trifecta.
yeah. All right. Moving on to the mana base. All looks pretty standard.
Yeah.
Like, it's a Grixis mana base. There's an Otawara in there. I think the only spicy card here is Phyrexian Tower. I imagine that's just because it sacks Cormela.
Yeah, Sax Cormela. Takanuma is one I'm testing out right now. I don't really like it. It doesn't really
makes sense.
do anything. I've never activated it.
It felt fine every time I had it in Chainer. Because it was a way for me to instant speed save the Necrotic Ooze or save a combo piece from like, I don't know, like a Rest in Peace or something, something being blanked, but it never came up, or I never had the mana, but that's also because that commander is bad.
No.
No, I love my boy, but I'm in the I found someone better part of my life, so I'm gonna start trash talking those that came before, you know. Yeah, okay, no, that Like this just gets Cormela back?
Yeah, I found that Cormela gets stuck in the graveyard sometimes because I like
Mhm.
always put her there. And it's a way to get her back at instant speed, and it gets around like reanimating her directly or anything like that. Sometimes that's
Yeah.
bad.
It's an uncountable way to put her back into rotation. So I mean that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, cool. Well, that is all 99 cards that we have gone through. Was there anything that like we kind of missed on our little walk through your deck at all?
No, I think that's pretty solid. All right, now we're talking about polymorph. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but okay. So you have said that you've ran through a lot of different iterations. You alluded to a polymorph list. I talked about like your token strategy. Do you think that this is like just the better way to play it?
Yeah, this is probably the best way. I've played the polymorph a lot, and I think that deck is like really good. But like
Hmm.
everything this loses to, that one just loses to harder, and it's like not that much better. Like it can win like kind of out of nowhere, not just because of polymorph, but like you have a really good reanimation target there. But like this is probably just still better. Like also the lines of polymorph are so complicated, but they're really really fun because you can
I,
win
I
even when you should not.
that's just polymorph though.
Yeah,
That's just what that card does. Is
yeah,
it opens up a lot of weirder lines and opens up your third eye almost to like what you
it
can
really
do.
does. I've played the token version of this, and it's fine. I played a 5 mana version of this with Asika as the commander, and that just ended up becoming Legends Matter, but Cormela was in it, so this
Hmm.
is kind of dumb.
That's pretty base. I don't know. Hey, Delighted Halfling goes crazy.
Yeah, it does now. Yeah, I
Yeah,
still
it
have all the
does.
cards. I could still do it.
You could. I mean, like it's not an irrelevant thing.
Yeah. Um, the main deck I'm playing, like, so I mainly play Cormela, but I do play a lot of Vol, and that's
Hmm.
the deck that I really like to play. And I don't think we're gonna talk about it right now, but I do really like that deck a lot.
It's sick. Maybe we'll have to get you on in a later episode after you've taken down the next OCCS or something like
Yeah,
that.
I gotta get that.
When that happens inevitably.
Yeah, I scrubbed
Oh,
out the
I
last
mean,
one though.
it's all right. No, it's my time, baby. It's my time.
Yeah,
I'm hoping. I don't know. Maybe. Well, cool. Well, I don't have anything more that I feel like I need to question or comment on. From the jump, I've really liked your Cormella list. I think you have always put forth a lot of really, really interesting and very, very potent ideas. And I think a lot of us in our group have definitely like felt that for certain. So I have always envisioned getting you on to talk about this list because it to me, for context for people, because I don't think I've talked about this, but Eckszy and I, we basically came back to Magic together at the same time.
hmm
We both went into CDH at the same time. Me with Chainer, Eckszy with Cormella, really. Or I guess you jumped in with Joyra
yeah. I played Jorah, but
first. Yeah,
Yorick was like my first real CDH deck. But it was
yeah.
like, I mean, it's still also not a real CDH deck at the same time.
It does the spell seeker
Yeah,
lines, like it
it
does
does win.
some stuff. It does win. But no, like this is a special one for me, just because I mean this list took down our first OCCS. It's evolved as we've all have evolved. So this has been a big one for me, and I'm glad I got to get you on.
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah, I I definitely like want to play this deck more. I think it's just like the thing keeping it from being like as great as I want it to be is I think it's just like there's got to be another card that needs to be printed that just like breaks it just a little more. I think that's all it's really missing.
You think so?
Yeah. And I was kind of high on Born Upon the Wind, and I didn't end up even playing it. I don't think.
Really?
I think it's like good, but I already can win at instant speed, so like I
Okay.
don't know.
I mean, yeah. What like you can? No, because you can just like top deck tutor into like One Ring or whatever.
Yeah.
To get like your tutors like okay, like you can tutor it instant speed, which may or may not matter, but also you can just have the outlet in hand.
Yeah, I do think Born Upon the Wind this deck gives Pier a little bit more like
Oh, that's pretty cool.
yeah,
Okay, that's pretty
it lets
cool.
you win over Bowmaster, which I think is important.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Kind of
yeah. That is the detriment to playing Peer into the Abyss is you get cooked by
yeah,
Bowmasters.
you just have to win an instant speed on top of it, which like I do in
It's
my
whatever.
Vol deck,
Yeah,
which is fine.
yeah.
But in this, I don't quite have anything besides just like having enough mana to win on top.
Very cool. Um, I guess that is one thing I keep forgetting to ask people when we do this, but like what would you say are like the things that you hate seeing when you're playing this deck? For me at least, it's always like if I was on Chainer, it was always like Drannith Magistrate, Grafdigger's
Oh
Cage,
yeah,
like those kinds of things. Like these are like these are the problem cards, you know?
yeah. Obviously Rest in Peace
Hmm.
is a problem. Like you can still Thoracle through that, and Grafdigger's Cage doesn't really do anything because you can still Saw in half through it. You just can't like, I don't know, breach or something.
I think
Um,
I think Grafdigger's Cage just shuts down Breach for you because it's creatures, not
yeah,
instants and sorceries, and like I guess it shuts off your reanimation.
yeah, but it's
That's about
like,
it.
yeah, stacks in general. One other thing about the Saw in half version of this deck, and minus the Gorios, I keep mentioning it, but this version does like lose to like tax effects because you only ever net one
Yeah,
mana. And in the
yeah.
Gorios version, you would at least with Ashnods, you'd net an extra mana, which you can use to pay for
Mm,
taxes, which can even like protect your win, which is
okay.
kind of funny.
So a lot of like the usual like stacks hosers, like
Yeah,
rule of laws, tax effects, those kinds of things is
yeah,
really what this deck
and
hates to
that's why I
see.
play like
Okay.
Submerge and things like that.
True, 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 true. No, I always think it's interesting, especially with some of these more like niche or like not basically anything that's not 4 or 5 color.
Yeah,
Like those decks lose to something. And like that's just kind of like part of the trade-off is like you're trading value for synergy, but you also open yourself up to like more hate pieces essentially.
yeah. I think
But like
Grixis.
that's just a
Sorry.
Grixis problem, I
Yeah,
think.
Grixis is in like a weird spot right now. I've kind of felt that like Grixis Turbo is only getting worse as time goes on
Yeah,
because
I
like
can feel that. I can feel that.
there's only going to be more stacks pieces and like random fierce guardianships getting printed, and the community hates Dockside enough to where there's not going to be more Docksides and there's not going to be Chrome Moxes for
No,
Nas
no,
or anything like that.
I will be very shocked if they print another 0 mana rock or something.
Yeah,
What Jeweled Lotus was the last 0 mana rock that they printed, and before that was
Mox Amber,
Amber.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I
even
I feel
those
like we have
aren't really like
they're niche enough that they don't see play in every deck, but the decks that they are played in, oh boy, are they powerhouses.
yeah. And I think a deck like this just, unless something crazy comes out, like it only does get worse
Mhm.
cuz there's going to be more Dranniths and Bowmasters and stacks effects and things like that.
Just these random like good cards that are just
Yeah,
really potent at fighting things.
yeah, and that's why I have a blue white deck to fall back on. when
Let's go.
when it hits the fan.
We have the we have the pocket picks for when like our main pick is not doing so hot in the meta. No, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. All right, well, that's basically everything I got. You got anything for me or anything you need to shout out at all?
Invest in Mearshal Crabs. That's what I got to say. Pictures up today.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, well, that is going to wrap us up here at Mana on the Rocks. Eckszy, it's a pleasure, my friend. I'm glad we got to do this episode and talk about Cormela.
Thank you.
This has been a good one. This has been a very good one. We'll catch you next time.
Yo, peace.